Neat.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this hangout where I'm discussing someone who's recently criticized me in a video. Video that I made called The Truth About Racism, based on a discussion that ChamberDeacon here and I had on Twitter, where we disagreed about it. And he's made a response video, and I watched part of it on a stream, but I didn't critique it very properly. And so we're now discussing the ideas and I suppose what's been considered so far. So, ChamberDeacon, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, guys, my name is the ChamberDeacon. I'm more or less a perpetual drunken hair up everyone's ass. I want to thank you, Uzalu, for holding this. To be honest with you, the video I made was weak sauce. Like, there's no excuse for it. But I appreciate you giving me the chance to actually discuss this out in the open with you once again.
Well, I'm always open to criticism, and honestly, I think this was a video that I really wanted a lot of people to see, and any criticism on this, I'm very open to, because I think it's worth discussing. As I said in the video, this is a conversation that needs to be had.
Oh, agreed. Like,
so
I think we're both on the same.
Okay, good. So why don't you go ahead and tell me what the contention you'd like to bring against me first in the hangout is? What you'd like to criticize me on first?
Okay, so I've got a couple. By the way, you're cutting in and out, so my internet's like fucking Ethiopian speed, so it's gonna probably dice in and out. So if I overtalk, just give me a second and I'll catch up.
Stream, could you let me know if there's any audio issues or any issues at all? Because it might not be your end, ChamberDeacon.
Yeah, well, trust me, I live in the middle of the sticks, so. Okay, so I wanted to kind of make this as easy as possible. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and acknowledge where we probably have ground that we're standing on and that we both agree upon. And then I've got a few points that I'd like to just make real quick about where I disagree with you. One of the first things I'd like to do is actually agree with you. The actual coil that you described, yeah, I think that is very appropriate, and I think that you kind of went a little bit under-reaching, so to speak. It really does describe just any kind of invalidation. I'd even go as far to call it a tribalism coil. Like,
yeah, it sort of is tribalistic.
Yeah, it describes a lot more than what you're reaching for there, dude.
Yeah,
and
I know. I mean,
I think.
Yeah.
This is gonna suck. Okay, well, other than that, other than the technical glitches we got going on, to be honest with you, I think that we both agree that, yeah, like, first off, we need to actually have people that are trying to defend the eugenics model and the ethno-state. We need to have them out in the open. Driving them underground does no fucking good for anyone. Really.
Sure.
They need to be allowed to express themselves, and they should not, as long as they're not actually trying to incite violence or go over that fucking edge, they need to be allowed to speak.
Yes, it's definitely a good start. So that's where we agree.
Yeah. So here's where I disagree. First off, you were intellectually dishonest.
That was an interesting time for him to cut out. I did not kick him. I'm perfectly happy to hear, however, is. Oh, you're back. Well done. What happened?
Ethnic nationalism.
Hi, sorry.
This works.
You dropped out. I might have misheard what you said, missed what you said. You dropped out just after you said that I had been intellectually dishonest. So maybe you could start again from that point.
All right. I do think that you have been intellectually dishonest. You conflated ethno-nationalism with white nationalism. That's like conflating egalitarianism with feminism. Those two things are very different.
No. I didn't conflate them, but white nationalism is a flavor of ethno-nationalism.
It is, but it's a very violent one, in the same way that, you know, egalitarianism is an equal movement.
Historically, it may be, but as I repeatedly said, I'm not talking about any individuals or organizations, because after all, the alt-right is something that's of the present and of the future. It's something that's coming. It's something that's happening now. So what we're discussing is the idea that it founds itself upon, not what has come before that has a similar idea.
I would
because this
disagree
is
with you thoroughly on that because, in all honesty, let's face up the facts. This is just the old fool society eugenics and the dead science of eugenics and the ethno-state. It's garbage. It's flat Earth, man.
it's not
Which bring
it's not flat Earth. Flat Earth is demonstrably scientifically wrong. The thing is
yeah.
with
So is eugenics.
eugenics. No, eugenics has not been demonstrated wrong. Eugenics has
Yes, it
been
has. Why do
tried
you
to a
think there is
small extent.
genetics? No, why do you think there's genetics, there's sociology, there's anthropology? All of those things took the place of eugenics. Eugenics is a dead science, man.
No, they didn't take the place of being practiced to any sort of extent. I mean, what would you think is the furthest extent that eugenics has been practiced in human history?
Oh God, if we're talking about the United States, Britain, or Germany, because three of those are different. You guys actually lucked out on that because you started the party with what was his name? Oh Christ, the cousin of Richard, cousin of Darwin.
I don't know,
Like
but
you started.
I'm just asking. Like, would you say that like Nazi Germany is the best example of eugenics, like the greatest extent of
No.
eugenics that we've seen?
No, as a matter of fact, I would actually argue it's a very piss poor. It's where science is completely conflated. But at the same time, even in the United States, our eugenics laws have been dropped because they were garbage. It's called genetics. It's random mutation within us.
Okay, but hold on. Just because I'm not for eugenics, but just because one approach at eugenics didn't work doesn't mean that eugenics is totally invalidated. But I think we are a bit off topic here. I'm not defending eugenics, and it hasn't been.
I'm not arguing
scientifically disproved in the same way that flat Earth has been scientifically disproved.
I am not arguing that
it's a social model. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
But
So
it's a social model.
Let me draw back and make my original point. Ultimately, what point are we going to treat these people like flat earthers? Because at some point, yeah, we've heard this before, and yes, I do believe that it has been scientifically disproven. That's why the science is dead. It's not politics. It was bad science.
When they start claiming that the Earth is flat, we can treat them like flat earthers. Until then, we treat them proportionately. But the thing is that
you're giving them too much. You're giving them too much shelf space in the marketplace of ideals. Like
I'm
at some
giving
point,
them equal space in the marketplace of free ideas, the free marketplace of ideas.
No, because genetics has already taken over this. Like this might be something we'll have to agree to disagree on. But at the end of the day, let's face up the facts. Genetics is fucked. It's no longer relevant. Bringing it back is stupid.
Okay, so what you're saying is you think that there's no validity to their argument.
Yes, I'm saying that if...
So demonstrate that in a free marketplace of ideas.
Okay, well, let's put it like this. You have to actually supposit not only a name for something, but you have to supposit a, what would you call that? An actual direct hypothesis or theory. You give me that, I can knock it down. But that's the problem. Eugenics basically. See, that's the problem. Like, do you want to go in? Do you want to dig into this? Because I've knocked down a lot of them. I've actually been researching this for quite a while because, well, I knew this was coming. Like it was just a matter of time before it pops back up. It's like what is it? What is it? Anarcho-capitalism. Like it pops up every couple decades, man. Every generation plays with it. You know.
Sure.
So
sure.
I knew this was coming. I've been researching it.
I mean, it's worth having these ideas available. It's not worth having mechanisms in place to keep these ideas suppressed, which was my main point.
Which I agree with you on that, but at the same time, it should be on the bottom shelf, dude. Like this is flat Earth shit. That's my opinion. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on this one.
The only sense that it should be bottom shelf, the only sense that anything should be bottom shelf is something that is directly contrary to what is demonstrated in science. That's not something that eugenics matches. Eugenics is a social model that has been tried to a certain extent and has failed in probably many of the cases it's been tried. But that doesn't mean it's been tried in every case. There's such a massive gulf of difference between eugenics and flat Earth.
Like, so we're getting into the real depth of this because when let's take the hypothesis of the ethno-state, right? Let's take that and let's historically examine it, right? Your empire was one of the most diverse in human history and lasted one of the longest periods of time. Are you saying that the ethno
That's
model?
correlation.
See, and then you've got the United States, which with the USSR, which by the way is not an ethnically pure area, defeated two ethno states, or at least one ethno state that was naturally ethno, and then another one that was trying to be ethno, like Carthage, Rome, fucking even Alexander the Great. Like
Right,
historically,
sure.
it is a failed model.
Well, hold on. All of those could be correlation. Now,
Oh,
if you can show me a causal link, that's something else.
a causal link, yeah, it's called diversity equals rigidity. Seriously, man, you can't causally link the reasons why
There are
societies rise and fall.
two certain kinds of diversity, especially diversity of thought, which does sometimes originate from diversity of things like race and nationality and stuff like that. But
so you agree that it could be a failed model?
Extent that flat Earth is, and even if it was, it would just be something that's perfectly has an equal standing in the free marketplace of ideas, except that most people think it's wrong.
Yeah, until you get into the love-hate. Like, let's face up the facts. So the question that I asked, and we're moving on to the next point. The question that I asked in regards to your statement, how is it loving? We've been going back and
I never claimed it was loving.
No, you claim that it's not necessarily hateful. And then I asked, how is it loving? We're both appealing to emotion. Like,
No,
I would disagree with you on that.
The wrong question to ask. Just logically speaking, that I never said anything about it being loving.
That's the point. I was asking. I was trying to flip that back on you.
Okay, but it doesn't work. It just misses the point of my question and pretends I was asking something else.
No, it doesn't miss the point of the question, because at the end of the day, like, ultimately, dude, a feminist and a third wave feminist are two different things. A white nationalist and a white separatist are two different things. Like, I was trying to get you to actually think about what you were saying. Like, someone identifying as a white nationalist is a pretty hateful fuck in my experience.
Not necessarily. That's my contention.
No. I could take a fucking poll, and you're going to discount the whole thing for one errant piece of data. One person that is just loving of everyone. So then you would agree that a difference in number equals a difference in kind, or would you disagree with that statement?
It doesn't matter how many people are not white nationalists. I said that it's not necessarily hatement that you appear.
Yeah, the individual. You're cutting out pretty bad right now. Literally, I can't hear a word you're saying.
I'll repeat it. Apologies, that appears to have been my end.
It's us. It's us.
My original statement that you appeared to disagree with was that it's not necessarily, the ideology is not necessarily hateful. I don't even have to find one person who believes it who isn't hateful to prove that point. It's a philosophical and reasoning-based discussion, not a statistical argument.
Yeah, and at the moment that you
put reasoning again about it.
The moment that you put a philosophy like feminism, Islam, Christianity, and someone takes it seriously, like white nationalists tend to, then what does it become? It becomes an action. And actions can be hateful.
It's still just an ideology. It's still just ideas. I mean, okay, promoting the idea that it doesn't necessitate hatred. Like, at what point does it necessitate hatred?
On some level, dude, you have to admit that the data, like the actual actions of these people, are fucking hateful on average.
Again, you're talking about the history of these people, and I don't disagree.
I'm speaking today. They've just, the only thing that they've done is basically gone online and stopped, well, honestly, most of them find another outlet for their garbage. Like, you don't understand. I'm speaking within the last 20 years. We've had to beat, do you know what a hammerhead and a sharp is?
Not yet.
Okay, a hammerhead is basically, and I might be fucking this up, folks, so don't crucify me. A hammerhead is basically a neo-Nazi. A sharp is a socialist, you know, like the fucking, you know, what was it? Well, you live in a socialist hellhole. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, there's a difference between the two kinds. You're not making that distinction because you are not looking at them.
I'm not making the distinction because my argument doesn't go that far. Literally, all I'm saying, and I think it seems like you keep trying to tack things onto what I'm saying. Literally, all I'm saying is the ideology of white nationalism is not necessarily hateful.
Okay, this is becoming less and less productive. Would you agree with that?
No, I just needed to get that out so people knew.
Okay, if that's what you think, that's fine. But here's what I'd like to go ahead and do. I'd like to go ahead and bring up another point.
Go for it.
All right, so ultimately, that is something that you did in the middle of it. Like, you conflated it, in my opinion, and you didn't take into full account that, and you did something that was kind of fucked up. You went ahead and said, and if you watch the end of the video, I was at that point frustrated with the project and just started having fun with it. Pretty much at the end of the project, or the end of the video, you started trying to define things by the definition, even though at the
I was
beginning of the video,
expecting you to bring this up.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
you knew it was coming.
No, I knew it was coming because you're very extremely wrong on this point, and I was laughing watching your video just how wrong you were. Right, so
Okay.
here's what you did. I said I'm not going to try and define movement by the term like feminists do, where they say because the definition of feminism is equality for the genders, that means that's what the movement does. Okay.
Right.
Then, so if I had said white nationalists aren't hateful because the definition says they aren't, that would have been stupid, but I didn't say that. What happened was I wasn't even talking about the term white nationalism. I was talking about the term racism, and I wasn't defining anyone by the term. That's what you accused me of defining white nationalists by, and I was laughing because it was just utterly nonsensical.
I actually did that twice in the video, by the way. When you tried to conflate it with ethno-nationalist with white nationalist.
In my opinion, there was no conflation, but I understand that we differ on that.
Fair enough. But I did it twice.
I see no reason to believe there was. Okay, well, in my opinion, you made a pretty grievous error twice then.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree if you want to continue. Did you actually watch the whole thing through? Like, I'm just curious if anyone actually did. It's one of those things, you know?
I think I may have done, but it was a while ago. I can't remember exactly.
Fair enough. As long as you didn't, like, punch a hole through a wall, I feel like I feel like I'm pretty privileged then.
I had to keep pausing to just exasperatedly explain to myself, explain out loud exactly how wrong it was. I mean, there were some marvelously incorrect things in that video.
Well, if it helps, I feel about the same on yours. So
you do, but
yes, I think we're
3 minutes and 19 seconds in, and I had already decided that this is so bad I have to stream it.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't watch the full stream. I did watch some of it. Oh, by the way, the person that kept complimenting the suit, I get most of my images from British, ironically enough, British Library. I think has a Pinterest or whatever the hell that is. Just go to the British Library and Library of Congress. That's where I get most of my stuff.
Okay. I'm sure everyone will appreciate the information.
Well, someone complimented me. I appreciate it. Thought I'd return the favor.
So let's bring this back to the central point that I feel we still haven't resolved. I was expecting my video to resolve, unless there's something you want to talk about specifically.
Well, I think I've covered about all of it.
All right.
I mean, at this point, what's left to talk about, you know?
Well, I mean, we haven't really resolved anything or gone into great detail on anything. So let's try to stick to the central point so we can do that. So to my contention, just stick to that contention that the idealism is not necessarily hateful. Do you disagree with that as a...
1 second, you're cutting out. Can you repeat?
So to my statement that the ideology of white nationalism is not necessarily hateful, do you disagree with any part of that?
Yes, I do. I have contention with it.
Do you disagree with it based on something that's not in the statement?
Are you speaking to the effect of experience outside of anything that I can put a tangible definition to?
Basically, yes. We are not talking about any people or organizations. We're just talking about the ideology. If we were talking about feminism, I would not try to attach it to modern feminism unless it was understood that that's what we were talking about. I would attach it to feminism as defined, as understood as the most general understanding of the term.
Well, if that's the case, then you should have been a little bit more careful tweeting and even adjusting your tweet. Like, in all honesty, this all feels like you've been trying to backpedal the whole time. And I do have to ask a question.
I've been forward pedaling.
Well, I don't think, I think you're stuck in mud there, Chief.
Well, right now it kind of feels like it because you're not really progressing this. I mean,
I'm not going to progress because there's nothing
what
to
is your
progress to. You want me to acknowledge that these people are like some kind of loving charity organization? They're not. They're
no?
assholes.
I'm not talking about the people.
And
I'm
the
not talking about the people.
ideology itself, the ideology, depending on exactly what you define as white nationalism. Now, if you're speaking about an individual that wants a white national state, yeah, guess what? Still an asshole.
Didn't say anything about him being an asshole. Anyway, he could be an extremely nice person and still advocate for a white nation.
Let me do your job for you, can I?
Surely.
Because I've thought of the hypothetical. All right, so let's say that you've got an individual that is, white nationalist, goes to the fucking meeting. Let's just say he's a fucking straight up KKK member. Those people identify as white nationalists as well. He goes to the KKK meetings, never really does anything, never really harms anyone. In the minute before he died, what he did is he actually pushed a little black girl out of the way of a semi. Horribly maimed, dead on the spot. What was the sum of the value of his life? I get where you're coming from. I'm just saying that at this point, I'm sorry, dude, but you see what I'm saying.
Let me just answer that. This does seem like an interesting hypothetical for an entirely different discussion. I don't see how this bears any relevance to this discussion.
Ultimately, these discussions do tend to lead into each other.
I don't see how that's relevant. I mean, I can give you an answer, but I don't think it's going to loop back to anything. I mean, this person could have been anything in his life. He could have just had this belief, and the fact that he saved a black girl when he died means that it wasn't something that was so ingrained in him that it surpassed his human, his basic human instincts to protect people, the good human instincts that people have. But again, I don't see how it's relevant.
I do see how it's relevant, because ultimately what you're asking is a moral question. You're asking a question of, it's not necessarily hateful. And that leads into another question, it's not necessarily good.
I'm definitively not asking a moral question. I'm asking a purely definitive question.
Oh, for the love of Pete, at the end of your video when you were going straight into, I wish I had the actual number written down, when you were going in, they all do it and all that, and you were trying to get victim cred for them, and I still am a little pushed back by the fact that you were trying to get victim cred for white nationalism. Okay,
well, here's the thing about that. You've spent this stream and a lot of your video conflating all white nationalists with the KKK.
Or
that, to me, is an injustice.
Socialism, or what was it, Brotherhood of the Cross, or there's like 1,000 of them. They all think the exact same because they're using the same. No, they are using the same fucking term. They are the radicals, dude. Like the actual moderates
think the same. All libertarians think the same.
No,
all economic libertarians think the same. All Democrats think the same.
You are conflating it basically with white nationalism is everything. No, there are white separatists. There are white.
White nationalism is quite a broad thing, though. Like if you're a white supremacist, it's very likely you're a white nationalist. So it's contained within it. It's like a nested hierarchy of traits, right?
Yeah, but white supremacist is in the same vein as liberal or conservative or anything like that. It's a broader term. Even feminism is in the same kind of vein. Like, you're talking about subgroups. We're arguing about placement at this point.
I'm actually arguing specifically about the supergroup. I'm arguing about white nationalism. I didn't mention white supremacy, and I don't really have any interest in discussing it at the moment.
And I would argue that white supremacy is the supergroup for this. So that might be the contention. Yes,
you think that
you have to have some level.
Okay, that's interesting.
You have to have some level of fucking superiority complex to believe this garbage. Like, that is kind of the root of all of it. Like, in the same way that the swerfs and the turfs are in feminism, in liberalism, there's neoliberalism and 1,000 flavors of everything that is more or less being turned into mush as we speak. Same with conservatism, though.
Well, okay, it's possible you might be right that the proportion of ethnic nationalists who are also white supremacists is higher than that of white supremacists who are also ethnic nationalists. I think I've worded that.
I would argue it's the root.
I missed it.
This is where we make this.
Perhaps white supremacy is more the root, but I would say that it's it's further down the rabbit hole. That's sort of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the entry level of this broader ideology, this broader discussion about the new authoritarian collectivist right. Look, I can't state it any more clearly. I'm talking about only the ideology of white nationalism.
And I keep
it honestly
pointing
doesn't
out
seem
that
to me
they
like
are
you're
white
arguing against it.
supremacist.
I'm not talking about them or anyone else. I'm just talking about the ideology.
They are the supergroup, or whatever level is above the supergroup. They are the binding glue of all of the whole white nationalism, and same with black nationalism. Excuse me, not nationalism, but supremacist.
Okay,
We are
even if
arguing.
that's true, that's not what I'm arguing. Like that's an extremely minor point that I'm not really even contending. Looking for an answer, and maybe we're just at cross purposes here, and we're not going to get to this. But I'm still looking for a way for you to explain to me how the ideology itself is not necessarily hateful.
How can it be loving? See, if you keep doing this, it's an emotion. Hate is an emotion, Chief.
So how can you tell that they're all hateful?
You can't tell me that they're
sorry,
all
I'll rephrase that. That someone who is a white nationalist is necessarily hateful. I'm not telling you that they're all loving. I'm just telling you that the ideology is not necessarily hateful.
For the love of Pete. Seriously, we're not going to agree on this. I've had too many, outside of my own personal experiences, putting aside that, the actions of the group are paramount. Would you disagree with that subject, or that statement, excuse me?
Say again?
Okay. Would you disagree with the statement of the actions of the group are paramount for the group's term? Or I should say, what the group is actually about. Kind of like how feminism has been promoting intersectional feminism, third wave feminism has been. But you see my point. Like their actions are, like their actions speak.
Well, hold on. Yes,
more than definitions do.
I see what you're saying. But if I was saying simply that hateful or the alt-right isn't hateful, then you could make that argument. But I'm specifically saying, and have been from the start, from the very first tweet, I believe, the ideology of white nationalism, or just white nationalism. So not any people or any organizations, I'm making that very clear, just the ideology. What I'm basically trying to get at here, and it seems like you're trying to move a step ahead before you actually answer my question, what I'm trying to get at is that this is not an impassable boundary for the intellectual capacity of humanity. This should be something that we are open to in theory without having to conflate it with emotional input, with some sort of disgusting subhuman class.
I don't see them as subhuman. I see them as incorrect. See, that's the problem. You're conflating me and my argument with going down your coil. And that brings up a good point that I wanted to bring up to you. Honestly, at some point, let's face up the facts. Your coil is going to be used to shut down just as much discussion as it's going to actually open up. You've basically created I've seen it written both ways, self-totalizing and a totalizing system. It is something that you cannot escape from once someone tries to put you in it.
That's interesting. Yeah, let's have a think about that. It is quite specific, and it really is just what I'm addressing here. I think is when something is isn't, and I think that is globally something that should be avoided. So I don't think that it's, as you say, totalizing. I like that word. I like that because that is something I've noticed in other things. But I don't think it applies here.
That's actually a term in old skeptical dialogues. Basically, Freud's model is a totalizing or self-totalizing system because you can never escape. Like my crew brought this up, and if you get a chance, have you seen any of my crew's stuff?
No.
Seriously, he's probably the greatest fucking satirist. He started the whole SJW bonfire a while ago. My crew, come back to us if you ever see this. He got into a long fist fight with Karen Strauns. It's what was it? Sargon, I think, even brought it up, and so did Thunderfoot. But you see what I'm trying to say? Your coil, it literally is going to shut down discussion, dude.
I'm willing to consider that further, but as I'm seeing it right now, as I'm thinking about it now, the coil's method of identifying what the coil applies to specifically requires that someone pretends something is something it is not. And that is globally a bad thing in intellectual discussions.
Can I give you a pre-qualifier?
What you could say is that it could be misused but then anything could be misused.
Can I give you a pre-qualifier that might actually rectify some of my concerns?
Go on.
I'd highly recommend putting in legitimate criticism. Because in all honesty, you put me down at 2, and I am having legitimate criticism or legitimate, what would it be called, disagreement.
Okay, so 2 is the conflation of criticism of a subject with hatred of that subject. Now, what that means
that's what
is
you put me. That's what you put me at, by the way.
Well,
if I
let's
remember
discuss that in a moment. Let's just make sure we understand what that means.
But you see what I'm trying to say, like a pre-qualifier.
No, I think you may have misunderstood what it means. You may not have done, but let me just make sure for everyone's benefit. Step 2, conflation. The conflation of criticism of a subject with hatred of that subject means basically if someone says it in the US, then that is conflated with that person hating black people.
Right, like so the AIU model.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So if you produce some sort of if you show something negative about a demographic and it's determined to be bigotry,
right,
then inevitably that step is being performed because bigotry is hatred. Or, well, different definitions, but conflation is almost certainly being performed in that case.
Well, then
of criticism with hatred.
Okay, then you see why I don't think that, so, at least with concerns of you, I don't think I'm on level 2 or any of that coil.
Well, I can't remember exactly the tweet that I used to determine what you were doing on the coil. And by the way, this coil doesn't apply to people; it applies to statements and reactions that people make.
But what are people but the sum total of those things? I mean,
yes, but there's lots of different statements and reactions they make, and each one could be at a different place on the coil or not on it at all.
Fair enough. I think you're splitting hairs at some point, but I concede your point.
No, I'm not. It's not split. I mean, it's literally a bundle of hairs, and I'm saying, look, there's individual hairs in it. I'm just saying that when you apply the coil, it has to be applied to a statement or a reaction. It can't just be applied to a person.
I'm just saying, man.
Yeah, but hair is the topic.
Fair enough. But you see what I mean, like a pre-qualifier, just to make sure that people aren't trying to actually shut down discussion would benefit you. I don't think that it has a strong enough one.
Even if the criticism is wrong, or necessitate hatred. Even if someone says that black people steal all the money in society by owning all the rich corporations, like that's incorrect statistically. But it doesn't demonstrate hatred. It could just demonstrate that the person is wrong. Now that's an odd example. So you might suppose an ulterior motive there, but it still isn't necessitated. They still could just be stupid.
I can see where you're coming from, but at the same time, like, you're literally setting this up to be another privilege system. It is a thing that will be problematic. Like, in the same sense that it doesn't matter what you've done or anything that you believe or any of the arguments. If you're X, this happens. I'm just saying that this is something you might want to look into. But can you still hear me?
Well, yeah, I can still hear you. What you've said about it being potentially sort of a psychological trap, as much as it is trying to avoid being like psychological traps,
yeah,
that is something I will think about. But just looking at it right now, I don't think there's anything to that. I think it's literally just a way to avoid. I can see it becoming a psychological trap, as if it's misused, and anything could be misused.
I'll be honest with you, I kind of feel like, I don't know how you can hear me right now, but I feel like that we may end up disconnecting at any minute. So are there any further points you want to get forward?
Is there something with my mic?
It keeps popping.
Somebody in the chat is saying there's an issue. Okay, this is kind of strange because my mic never does this on while I'm recording, but it does this on Discord and Hangout, so I need to figure out some sort of solution to this.
I'm a weird shit magnet. What can I say?
No, I don't think it's your end. It was happening too on Discord. So we've only been going for half an hour. So what else? What else was in your video that we could go over? What was you saying at the beginning?
At least I didn't start tweeting you that troll face. I've seen it like 15 places around town now. Oh, you're everywhere. You're really taking off. I thought about doing that for a while.
What troll face?
Oh, at the very end of the video. Like when I just stopped giving a fuck.
Oh, okay. I don't think I saw that far.
You might want to watch it. Like towards the very end, it was pretty good. I gotta admit, like if I could be so bold to stroke my own ego for a second, the very end of the video, like I just started putting in Blues Brothers clips to test something out. Oh, a quick question, and I'm in all seriousness, I want a legitimate answer from you, if you get a second.
Go on.
Okay, you didn't hire Sterling Talent Solutions, did you?
Nope.
Okay, because apparently my video did piss someone off, and they hired a private investigator. I guess Wednesday is the day that I'm going to actually have to contact the State Secretary of Washington and the Nevada Private Investigation Board because they're trying to figure out who I am. Yeah, I pissed a Nazi off.
Sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, dude. You can take a good look at what I've got from them so far, but yeah. Pretty sure I'm being investigated right now. It could be could be a Nazi or it could be a fucking what's its name, one of the networks. I don't know how they operate.
Or a troll. I recommend that if you have any evidence of this and you're able to make it public, you do so because that sounds far-fetched.
Well, take a good look at what was it, the timeline on Friday through my tweet. I'm not going to bother you outside of just saying that's what I've sent them, and I'm planning on recording every word they say, so we'll see where it goes. Because why would they fucking like me out of the blue unless someone hired them, you know?
So what evidence do you have? Do they like one of your videos?
No, they went ahead and friended me like they were trying to look through my shit. Like, why would a private investigation background company like me out of the blue? Unless someone hired them to do that. Makes no sense to me.
Well, I don't want to say paranoia.
Yeah, but why would Wendy's like you unless you worked for them? You see what I'm saying? Like, the corporate Twitters don't do this.
Maybe it's a marketing tactic. I mean, there's loads of people that just like, loads of accounts that just like random tweets.
Well, we'll find out. Either way, I might be bringing a shotgun to a cockroach fight.
Right. So, question. Since we can come back to that if we think of anything else to go over, but I was just looking through my Twitter here at the things that you've said to find something else we can talk about.
Oh God, are we going back to the conversation because that devolved?
Yep. What do you think about the very serious video I made about Sargon?
Oh, okay. I fucked up on that. I gotta admit. Like, I didn't really read completely through or watch that video, and yeah, I fucked up. Honestly, it's not to my taste. Like I said, after I deleted the tweet, frankly, I fucked up.
Joke?
Not at first. I only got halfway through. You got to realize, like, I'm doing 70 hours of work a fucking week, dude. Like, my time is limited.
Fair enough.
My apologies.
The video was only a few minutes long, though.
It's not to my taste, but you know what? To each their own.
You don't need to apologize. I just found it funny that someone thought it was serious.
No. I didn't even get all the way through, and I thought I had a grasp on it, but then I got the joke afterwards. My apology.
Okay. All right. Well, no apology necessary. Okay, so I'm trying to think of I'm sure there were other contentions in your video. Do you have anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Oh, fuck yeah, Trump. How about we do that one?
We can do that one.
So I gotta admit, I've been watching Sargon and Skeptic and well, I'm leaving June and like some black guy out of this just because, well, they're United States citizens, but I watched the bandwagon form, and I still haven't gotten an answer of why you fuckers think he's going to be a great president. Please, do indulge me.
I don't think anyone but his devoted fans that go to his rallies do. None of this, I mean, let's call them the
Trumpites?
The YouTubers who prefer Trump, right? The YouTubers who prefer Trump, my estimation, of like, you know, Sargon, people of a roughly similar position to him, including myself, is that he would.
I can barely hear you.
Sorry, that's probably my end again. My internet needs to get a good kick after this stream. My impression of what people like Sargon and people who have his position, I have a similar position, believe on Trump is that he was simply not as bad as Hillary.
Okay. That really, let me ask real quick. You would consider, I know Armored Skeptic's a skeptic. You're a skeptic, right? And would you consider Sargon a skeptic?
I don't call myself a skeptic because I don't like using something as a label that's like congratulatory, especially intellectually congratulatory, is dangerous territory. But I know what you're trying to say.
Are you skeptical?
I aspire to be a skeptic, and I try to be skeptical, yes.
So what the fuck happened with all you kids? Because it just seemed like you started stroking the ego, not really reporting anything. I know everyone was on the lesser of two evils bandwagon, which, by the way, I wrote in Bernie. Fuck being bullied into actually voting for someone. Which that was bullying, by the way. Why did you guys just decide this bandwagon was for you? For you personally.
So, Spike, I missed the variance.
Okay, why is the Trump bandwagon for you? Why did you, if you could vote in here, why did you vote for him?
Because, I mean, I agree with Sargon on this. Like, it's a fundamental property of the nation. I think the majority of problems in the world can be traced back to US government corruption. And Hillary, as far as I could tell from all the evidence I was seeing, was the embodiment of that government corruption.
So the fact that he didn't release any of his tax data, his company holdings, or any of that stuff, and the fact that
immaterial in comparison.
We have no clue what he's really about. You voted for, if you were able to vote, you voted for an unknown question mark, and now we all have to deal with it.
But that Hillary was known and understood. Abysmal.
So in other words, the devil that you don't know is better than the devil than you know.
Right now, yes.
Okay, how about the nuclear proliferations? Because he's actually reiterated that fucker after getting in office. How do you feel about that?
Nukes are the best force for peace in the modern world.
Oh God, you're insane. You're fucking insane. All right, now you're just trolling my ass.
You know, I know you know about mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, until you get into like, you know, some of the more unstable regimes, and then you really don't want them. No one wants North Korea to have a fucking nuke other than China. No one.
Not much we can do about it.
Agreed.
No, I agree. They absolutely shouldn't have them. In fact, almost no one should have them. Most of the affluent European nations.
You've already said the MAD. You've already set up as MAD. So where is the limitation of MAD?
Addendum: responsible nations, not nations that have, you know, a single ruler who's told yes by literally everyone in his nation.
Putin, now banned in Russia.
Putin's not quite that bad. Like, obviously, Putin has he's top of the pile. Like, okay, so North Korea is basically a child of China, so they don't have to take responsibility. Putin does, because he doesn't have anyone above him that's on his side. He has to take responsibility.
Fair enough. I will give him the Polis does have a clear line of shot, and even China, to be frank with you, doesn't have a direct line of responsibility. Have you seen the Politburo? That thing is fucked. Oh, if I could give a shout out, by the way, if I could give a shout out, you ever watch China Uncensored?
No.
Highly recommended. Like, the guy literally went to the what was it, Scarborough Shoal, and he put his YouTube flag right there, like with a couple destroyers out in the background. He was fucking hilarious. Highly recommend looking into China Uncensored. Okay, so I got another question. Bringing up talked with in the past. Oh Jesus Christ, Amos Yee.
Ah, yes.
So what are your real thoughts?
Oh, well, I've been real the entire time, but obviously he's changed, so my thoughts have changed accordingly.
See,
Since a little before he went to prison, he became an anarcho-feminist, and I think he is still something like that. And my opinion on that should be pretty obvious without me even having to say it.
fair enough. There's not much we can say without disturbing a huge apple cart there, would you say?
Disturb away, dude. If you have something to ask.
Well, to be honest with you, wouldn't you say that a lot of what came out of his mouth was just a sole grab for attention, with the full weight of an actual government bearing down on him at the time?
I think he believed the child porn shit.
I'm not saying he didn't. I'm saying he said that just to get attention, though.
No, but whether he said it with the, I mean, that's such an easy accusation, but what matters is whether he believed it or not. Such an easy accusation to just say you just did it for the money or the attention. Like, for one, there's no way you can ever prove that. What matters is whether they actually believe it, and I think he did.
Actually, you could prove it. It'd just take a couple of lockpicks in Singapore right around now with their intelligence bureau. So I'm not saying it's worth proving, but...
Well, no, you still can't prove its intent. Unless he's documented his intent somewhere.
Well, I don't know. He is he was 17 years old at the time. I'm just curious on how much of this was out of his league and over his head, you know? Just a thought.
He's obviously just a volatile kid who's had the wrong influences in his life and has ended up quite strange because of them.
That might be the best way to put that and leave it, at least for the moment.
So yeah, Cisco was mentioning Liz Reptile's video about AMRC, where she basically exposes a bunch of things that he's been involved in that show that he's been doing a lot of this just for the cash, or just for not very honorable reasons. As I say, like, the same thing applies. You can't demonstrate intent.
Well, you can't.
I don't remember exactly. I remember finding a lot of things in that video quite convincing, but I won't go as far as to say they're true. It just, you can't demonstrate intent.
See, that's why I was asking.
Like,
kind of wanted to see what everyone's opinion was. Could you send me the link to that video, if you don't mind, if it's still up?
I don't have the link on me. It would be easier. It would just as easy for you to type Liz Reptile in Google. It's the most recent video on AOC, I guess.
This is going to sound really fucked up, but would you mind twittering that name to me? Because in all honesty, you keep cutting out to the point where I can't even spell it.
It's Liz Reptile. Hopefully you got it that time.
I think, and I will try. Don't worry, dude. All right, anything you want to discuss with me?
Later. Well, honestly, I feel like we could have gone a lot longer on the main topic, but you didn't want to go into detail on any of the questions. You didn't want to.
Let's get back into it
directly. I mean, if we get back into it, all I'm going to do is ask the question again.
Yeah, we're going to go through a thought loop. Like, this is what this is. Like, we're not going to agree on it because
what I'm saying is the thought loop is due to you. And then you're answering a different. What I'm saying is that the thought loop, as you describe it, is due to what you're doing. I'm asking a question, and then you're answering a different question, and then it loops back to me asking the question to try to get you to answer it.
And so I've already answered it on some level. If you're talking about white nationalism, it's a difference in number equals a difference in definition or kind.
That's irrelevant to my question.
Oh boy.
So let me just try and get this sorted out, right? Because what I feel like you're doing, and try to sympathize that I'm talking in good faith here. What it seems to me that you're doing is trying to anticipate what I'm going to form from your answer to this question, and then answer that. I'm not after that, right? We can sort that out later.
I am saying that it is hateful on some level. It is not loving. The absence of love. If we're going with emotion, if we're going with emotion,
are you saying
no? It's not, because hate. Hate is an emotion, correct?
Are you saying that it's necessarily hateful?
Yes. Overall, I've been saying that the whole fucking time.
Okay, but why do you think that the ideology necessitates hatred of its bearer?
Because it needs supremacy, sunshine. It needs some kind of supremacy. Yes, it does.
I made the argument in my video that it doesn't.
And you failed.
That argument failed. Not even addressed it.
Okay,
you've not even addressed the argument.
By the way,
the argument is that there are reasons. There are reasons beyond advocacy for your own race, advocacy for one's tribe, to believe in an ethno-state. For example,
but the ethno.
There are people that believe they have scientific evidence, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but this is what they believe, that if you group people by according to genetic homogeneity, so according to similar race, that the society will function better. Now, these people could be talking about any nationality, any race, in any country, in any place. They could be black people saying this, they could be Asians saying this, about what they could be white nationalists who are Asians. They don't have to be supremacists to be nationalists of their race.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Yes. And here's where I differ with you on this.
In that case,
white nationalism is not ethno-nationalism. You were conflating them. It's like feminism and egalitarianism. It is not the same thing.
Right. No, but this is what I'm saying. An Asian person could be a white nationalist.
No, he couldn't, because that would be a level of self-hatred that would be comical and probably on fucking...
They could also be an Asian nationalist and a black nationalist.
Yeah, but they're not. Like,
if
you're talking about the
could someone be?
Okay, let's take this out of the terms, right? Okay, let's take this out of all of its terms. And let's just say that you tweeted out, black nationalism is not necessarily hateful. I would be right back here, because you keep conflating it with ethno-nationalism, and each version of the label is a fucking definition in of itself. Kind of like feminism.
But I'm not.
Excuse me. Feminism is a definition of itself, and the actions these groups take determines whether or not it's hateful. Like, you're trying to conflate.
I'm not conflating anything, though. I'm saying that these two things have. There's a notable connection here. I mean, we've agreed that someone can be an advocate for, and give me a second here to finish, an advocate for ethnic nationalism, which would result in them advocating for nations based on every race. So technically a white nationalist. So someone could say, yes, whites should have their own.
I missed a large part of that, because you went from advocating a nation like a national.
Okay, so someone could say that whites should have their own nation where they're apart from all other races, and they could be of any race saying that. Thing of any other race and be of any race saying that.
Okay.
If you accept that, then discuss.
And I don't accept it, because that would not make them a white nationalist. That would just make them an ethnic nationalist. Now, if a white person was saying that, yes. Now, if an Asian person was saying all Asians should have, well, let's do Japan, because in all honesty, it's kind of insulting to group all of them together. Especially because, have you seen their hierarchy? Oh God, they hate each other almost as much as we hate each other on some ethnic level, the Brits and the Irish. So let's go ahead and use Britain and Ireland to say that we Irish should have the north part and have the whole island for just us Irish. How is that not kind of hateful to the people involved? Hello? Did you shut down?
Hey,
hello?
I'm still here. I didn't hear a question, sorry.
Okay, so let's put this in the Irish versus the British terms. Let's go a little bit further into Never Never Land, shall we? So to say that we should have the full island, and Northern Ireland shouldn't exist. How is that not hateful towards A, Brits, B, the people living there?
It doesn't have to be hateful. It doesn't have to come from a place of hate. It could be based on anything. Any reasoning.
Though I do agree their border is going to be completely batshit, so they probably should join the EU. If not, sorry, they're going to have to secede. You know that, right?
Who? Northern
yeah,
Ireland?
they're going to have to now. Like, regardless if they join with Ireland.
I don't mind if they want to.
I hope things have healed over there, you know? Like, my family came over during the potato famine, so we had very little hand in that.
I don't know enough about them to say whether or not they could be okay outside the EU, but Scotland gets the majority of its income from the EU, and I'm pretty sure they could do just fine. I mean, if England just wants to leave on its own, we might actually do better than dragging the baggage of all the other nations around. Sorry, Red.
Oh God, sounds like you're going to get an angry tweet. But
so I think the discussion here ended up at was the fact that of white nationalism. So it seems that nationalist has to be white, whereas I would
I'm
argue
saying that again, individual ethnic. Now, if we're talking about like Irish, which technically I guess we're white since Kennedy got a new fucking hole in his head, yeah, then we're talking about two different things, because an Irish nationalist, let's say we take a fucking Kurdistan, like a Kurdish nationalist. No, that makes perfect sense. Same with Sunni nationalists. But white encompasses a fuck ton of things right now, Sunshine. Same with black, actually. If you're talking about like the amount of people that are now encompassed as black, or, you know, brown, I would even say, what is it, an Arabic nationalism. We're arguing subgroups here again. Like an Arabic nationalist is a fucking racist piece of shit. Same with a fucking Asian nationalist or any of that shit. No, no, no. If you're talking about the subgroups, then that's a completely different question.
But
what do you mean?
All I'm asking about is, okay, so is it possible for someone to be a white nationalist and also Asian?
No, no, because then they're just different nationalism. All they give a shit about is their own nation state. Like the majority of
contention lies.
Yes. Like same with a black nationalist being a white nationalist. It just doesn't work, man.
Well, no, a black person being a white nationalist. I mean, okay, so if someone is an ethno-nationalist in general, they would necessarily be a nationalist of every particular race because they believe every particular race should have its own nation.
No, I would agree with that's a garbage thing, but I would not consider it as hateful. Like, you're going into the vagueness. Once you start splitting hairs and being particular on which group you want in, which group you don't, it gets worse until you get about down to the individual tribe level, like the fucking Kurdish.
No, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about what the terms mean.
And I'm saying that this is the outcome
so someone
of the
could
term.
be
kind of like feminism doesn't mean equality.
Anything in reality, we're talking about the terms. We're talking about the theory.
And I'm arguing that the actual outcome is more important than the damn term. Like feminism, it is not about equality.
To the outcome of something and then preventing, action based on it is not a good idea.
Well, I mean, you're using these as terms. These aren't even really definitions at the end of the day. Like, you saw what I put up on the screen for white nationalism. That shit is fucking shifting. Same with black nationalism. Like, I agree with you using ethno-nationalism, but it's not the same thing.
Okay, well, it just seems like we're using different definitions of white nationalism here.
Well, there are actually multiple definitions. Yeah, we're like literally. I even put Kant up there with "do it punk" in the video. Like Kant's what is it? Error of definition or definition of error. We're running through this.
All right, no idea what that is, but
you've never heard of Kant? You know the philosopher Kant, right?
Oh, I misheard you then. I have heard of Kant, but yes. It seems like that's our only contention, that we don't have the same definition.
It's an error of definition.
Yeah. So if you're claiming you would figure that out, you could have made your video like 3 minutes long and just said that.
Well, I was also drinking, and I honestly think that we both kind of went through a phase of being angry at each other at some point. Hello?
Nope. But now we know that you did.
No, I wasn't angry. I was just agitated that you're going down this direction. Like, I disagree with your definitions. It's like, Jesus Christ, why the fuck are you doing this? Like, why did you?
I was never
like, what prompted this?
Well, if you want to know my motivations, it's because I thought there was something incorrect going on. Not even morally unjustified, although I think that's part of it, but just incorrect. People were making assumptions about people, which was preventing certain ideas being discussed. I'm basically trying to preserve the sort of stability of the free marketplace of ideas, the comprehensiveness of the free marketplace of ideas.
I think that's admirable up until the point where you legitimately were going to be running around debunking fucking flat earthers from now until infinity. Like there's a moment in time where an ideal is a dead ideal because it was wrong.
Yeah, but what that means is that people in the free
Same.
marketplace of ideas know how to refute it so easily that they can just link to a source.
Like I said, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, we can't shut these people completely out because the only thing they're going to do is organize and do stupid shit. You know?
I mean, at some point, ideas just get ignored if they're widely regarded as obviously wrong. But that's not what people are doing with white nationalism.
No, people still believe in fucking Thor. Like, we know how to debunk Thor because Thor doesn't exist. Same with the fucking perfect ethno-state. It doesn't exist, at least not within history. Especially when you consider that Japan is actually pretty fucking tribalistic. They have a class system of their own, dude.
I'm sure they are. I'm not for an ethno-state.
No,
Although
I'm
that
not
being
saying
said,
that
I
you
don't
are.
think it would necessarily fail. No, I know. I'm just to the point. But I don't think that an ethno-state would necessarily fail. Maybe I don't know enough about it to say that for sure.
Hey, by the way, did Edgy Sphinx ever say, like, what the fuck was up before he left? Like, I don't understand why that kid was so... Like, I had a few interactions with him online. I don't understand why that kid was so hell-bent on it. Other than, do you know what happened during World War II? Like, with Egypt?
Lots of things happened during World War II.
Well, with Egypt in particular.
I don't think so. I probably have known in the past.
Have you ever heard of Operation Gladio?
Probably, but I don't remember it.
Okay, let me put this out here. Edgy Sphinx is probably fully aware of this, but as with the communist and the capitalist, or whatever you want to call them, the United States and Russia, as they did with Italy, they left sleeper agents. And a lot of probably what you're seeing out of that man's mouth, if he's not just using the fact that they did this, is the fact that the Nazis, in particular the SS and special agents of the Thule Society, went to Egypt to train people. Yeah.
Well,
in eugenics. Yeah, you're looking at a generational problem there.
I have no idea if that's true, but it might be.
Take a good look. Like, Rommel had to kick their asses out because, well, they were fucking with his shit.
Well, here's the issue with that, though. Talking about totalizing things, you've created a way to dismiss everything that Edgy says based on an assumption.
I didn't dismiss anything. I engaged with him. Like, literally, I pointed out, hey, what's the difference between you and your family when we're talking about immigration?
Okay, maybe not entirely dismiss, but to reason away his positions. No, but by saying that, you're saying that his reasons for coming to this conclusion was somewhat based on historical...
I would say it was. That's just my opinion.
Ordinary historical actions designed to produce these... don't have evidence of that, so what you're doing, you're creating a way to automatically make that assertion about him. And
no, I'm not making that assertion. I'm saying that it's interesting that he probably knows of this. Like, if he knows this, and he seemed like he was a pretty proud nationalist, Egyptian nationalist, he was fucking proud of his state for some level. He honestly knows this. So I'm saying that he either used it to his advantage or possibly was influenced without knowing, which I doubt. But you see my point. Like, that is a possibility. It's in the same vein as how all of us Irish over here for the we're pissed at you people for the fucking potato famine. We really are. I used to work for a call center that did calls for Britain, and the call center was in Cork, and yeah, we all see it as a chance for revenge anytime you're on the phone. Just to let you know, yeah, we're pissed at you still. And that is to acknowledge that that is a part of the history. So I'm not like the conversation that we've had, I'm not disavowing anything that you've said because of it, but yeah, it is in the background. You know?
Right.
So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that this is a component that, honestly, I think that that's what Edgy's kind of spouting. That's my opinion, though. I'm not disevaluating him. Like, I just think his ethno-state shit was kind of fucking learned behavior. That's my opinion, though.
I have no idea, but I tend to treat it as if he's originated his own ideas, or you know, that he's not unduly influenced.
Oh, dude, the ethno-state is not something you just go out and fucking discover in a field. It's not like It's not like riding a bike or blinking. Oh, no, it's something, it's a learned behavior.
No, well, no idea is, but that doesn't mean that it's some sort of pathological behavior.
Fair enough. And I'm not saying that it is, I'm just saying that that is an interesting statement. Either way, Chief, you got anything left for me?
I'm sure there's some interesting history to lots of different places of the world. I mean, the ravages of the 20th century left some serious marks, ideologically speaking, on the world. Anyway, no, I don't think I have anything left for you. I'm glad that we got to the bottom of that, because now I think I understand your contention. But I think it's a very minor contention. It doesn't really get to the heart of what was being said. But maybe that's something that we need to discuss once we've figured out those definitions. I think the definitions I'm using make more sense.
I kind of feel like we agree more than we disagree.
Probably, but I think the disagreements were pretty important. And I do think that your video was terrible, even though what you've explained now is not as bad.
Well, to be honest with you, once again, like I said, I don't want to make a fucking excuse for it. It was shit, and it was shit stock to, create a soup. But I hope this at least pushes what I wanted to say in the right direction, because I do kind of want to continue this conversation over the next year or so.
Righto. Well, that's a good place to leave it. Let's hope that happens.
Peace out, dude.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thank you, chat. Actually, are you able to stay a bit longer? Maybe there's some questions chat has.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Though, if you don't mind, real quick, do you mind if we take a quick break, because I need to actually go get a drink? All right,
go for
it.
Be
right
back. Chat needed a bit to take up some questions. Right, chat, give us some questions, and if you can't come up with anything serious, then we'll just end it. Yeah. By the way, I turned my camera off earlier because a lot of people were saying that my mic was having issues, and that they were recommending that I turn off my webcam to try and prevent the internet being choked. But I don't know if it worked or helped or did anything at all.
It might be both of us.
I think this is something that was happening to me on Discord as well.
By the way, I'm back.
I noticed.
Neat.
Are you reading the chat? Do you want a link?
Oh, dude, the thing that's on my thing right now says, there is an error while loading your app, and I have just left it alone.
Okay, so we've got a question from Bronson Panella. Uzalu, would you argue that communism is not inherently hateful, despite possible historical examples? So here's my thing about communism, right? I don't think that I think that there's very, very few, I don't know this for sure, very, very few communists who actually are authoritarian communists. I think the majority of them have this utopian idea of post-scarcity libertarian communism, where they won't need an authority to rule over them as a state. The only people who are authoritarian communists are those who lived under it and are still indoctrinated by it. And so I think
if I could take this,
go on.
Real quick, how about we do you answer, I answer? That sound cool?
I mean, I think we can both answer each of them. I think
okay.
That makes more sense.
It works for me. Like, literally, I know a guy who is straight up, and he's real fucking misanthropic, real cool dude, does a lot of metal shit, but he's a straight up loves Stalin. Like, he is an authoritarian on it, and I would say there's a level of misanthropy, at least, towards the world in general.
Interesting. Well, you found one.
Yeah, one.
I would be surprised if it was a well-represented demographic.
Oh, no, it's not.
But even then, even as as you say, your example is a misanthrope. I don't think that advocating for authoritarian communism is necessarily hateful. Again, I don't think advocating for any political system is necessarily hateful. There's any number of reasons you could come up with for anything to justify it beyond emotional reasons, beyond negative emotional reasons.
I could see that.
And yeah, as I say, I think most people who advocate for communism have this idea that it'll be a libertarian communist society, or even anarcho-communist society, which is probably never going to happen. Right? If it does, it happens for a short amount of time.
Which, if you ever want to see a real fucking, if you want to see someone actually arguing the communist model back away slowly, I will introduce you to this man because he will literally start going, yeah, we need to be as brutal as possible. Like he is straight up a Stalinist and they get freaked out. It's hilarious.
That's interesting. Yeah, he sounds like a pretty well-adjusted guy.
He's, like I said, metal. Metal does things.
Well, I like metal. We have a statement here from Morphing Reality, which I think is worth addressing. Words on paper are not inherently hateful, but people are inherently capable of hate. Now, what you're getting at there is effectively that, and you're right, of course, what you're getting at there is effectively that that what I'm talking about here is something irrelevant, and that what's really relevant is what people do with these ideas. Now, that was pretty much what I thought when I made the tweet, because remember, this all originated from one tweet I made. I thought this would be something that would be very easy to defend, as I still think it was, and that would be had the problem that I've identified now. And I'm not talking about you, ChamberDeacon, necessarily, but a lot of the people who reacted to it did seem to have the very common reaction of, it's got the idea has got white in it. Well, then it's definitely hateful. So that's what I was addressing, and it is very simple. And the relevant issue, the wider relevant issue is really what people do with these ideas. That's what's practically relevant. But we still have to discuss this because it's a point of contention.
And see, this is where I disagree with you on this, because ultimately what you tweeted out would have been perfectly fine if you would have said ethno-nationalism. You wouldn't have the same thing just because people have interacted with white nationalism. Like if you say Jewish nationalism, it's going to be different than if you say black nationalism, because I hate to say it, black nationalism is a pretty fucking violent thing. It's the actual reaction to the thing. Like I've dealt with a lot of white nationalism to the point where I've almost had to lose jobs over it, dude. Like talking about Ferguson.
I understand that. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say justifiably tribalistic, but understandably tribalistic when they've encountered something that's horrible, and then they hear someone else saying that it's not necessarily horrible, and they feel that they have to demonstrate, they have to expose this person to their individual experience because it was so horrifying to them that this other person is just oblivious to it. The thing is that
I see your point.
That isn't necessarily intellectually honest, and that's all I was going for.
The same thing could be said about the whole feminism thing. Like the difference in kind equals a difference in number. Like in all honesty, the fucking you know what I'm trying to say. And third wave feminism has hijacked it, and most people don't even realize it. The problem is that white nationalism is a thing that's always been hijacked. It's a very core demographic, dude. Like swerfs, turfs don't exist there. Like, you see what I'm trying to say?
Okay, so the contention is that by providing any sort of defense, even of the theory of white nationalism, even in a very nuanced and indirect way, that I am providing some sort of cover for what will inevitably be hateful ideology in reality.
No, I'm saying that you're basically defining swerf or turf and then saying that it's all feminism. You see my point?
Well, I think we've already come to the contention of definition here, and I don't think it's anywhere near as clear-cut as that.
I keep trying to needle you on that one, I know. All right, another question.
Yeah, let's see if there's anything else here.
All three of you, thank you. By the way, I'm drinking Black Butte Porter by Deschutes. Actually, a really good beer. You drink much?
No, not alcohol. I drink it occasionally, like socially, but I don't.
Hey, what's your favorite beer, man?
I don't know. I haven't really had enough beers. I prefer cider.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, if you ever get a chance, man, Original Sin cider, fucking delicious. It's the best cider I've ever had.
Alrighty. Someone's asking, does ChamberDeacon have brain damage?
Depends on what you mean by brain damage. In all honesty, I don't really fit into the normal mold of what you would call, well, anything. Jack of all trades, master of none. So if I'm spread out over the place, if I sound like I'm a little bit aloof, anything like that, you'd have to define what you mean by brain damage. Does that help? What do you think, Uzalu? Am I brain damaged?
I don't know. I mean, if I had to answer after watching the first 3 minutes of your video, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's something I'm not really proud of, but I'm leaving up because you know what? Fuck it. It happened.
Right.
Consider that my walk of shame.
Okay, so we've got Gabois very emphatically asking, is
Right.
Pinochet a perfect man?
Who the fuck is Pinochet?
Oh, well, have you ever heard the meme of throwing communists out of helicopters?
Okay, now you're like doing a deep cut on the memes, so I'm a little far behind on that. You want to explain?
So I have to admit that I'm not an expert, but this is what I've gathered from basically the memes.
Hi.
Pinochet was I think, a Chilean dictator, and
Okay.
he was basically a theocrat, as I understand it. And he would take communists on helicopter rides and just throw them at the helicopter.
Okay, so I got a new term for you. You ready for it?
Go on.
This is a dorm room meme. Like, this is something that will never leave its dorm room outside of a few other collectives. Dorm room meme, like it.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to enter normie culture to be a valid meme.
Fair enough, but this is very selective. This takes a
Not
lot
everything
of...
can be Pepe.
True, but
No,
this takes a lot of background. I kind of do like it too. Dorm room
Well,
meme.
you never know. Now that you've heard it, you will see the communists thrown out of helicopters meme everywhere.
Fair enough, but I'm pretty sure there's a couple of what is it, like MacGyvers, or maybe oh, there you go, MacGyver, and I think A-Team did throwing a helicopter at. So all you got to do is find them now. Find the episode. Oh, I don't know. That's my answer. What's your answer?
Oh, is Pinochet the perfect man? I mean, listen, throwing communists out of helicopters does eventually start to pay for itself.
So we're going back to Reaganomics, all right?
Because you remove the anti-capitalists from the system, and the system becomes better for it. You know.
Well, you got me cracked up on that one. You got another question?
I'm looking for more questions, but I don't see anything serious.
Well, seriously, do the unserious. Wow, shit, son. Oh, we're escalating this.
Do you think anarcho-capitalism would ever work in a society? What society? It wouldn't be a society.
Like I said, when this was making its rounds, like straight up, yeah, it worked for a time in Spain. For time, you know, it had no way of defending itself. Like, yeah, it worked for a time. Thoughts, man?
I mean, I've done a video on ANCAP. It's basically just a wet dream of some rabid individualists.
No, the same thing could be said about pure socialism. But like you said, these things, and I agree with you on this, these things need to be around so the next generation knows what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I would say that the free marketplace of ideas should be full of all the ideas at all the time.
Yeah, but
I know things come in waves, but
should not give top shelf to some of this shit, man. You know.
I don't think it's up to us to decide which shelf it's on, other than for our own individual opinion.
Well, own individual opinion, and definitely teaching kids. Like, kids should come across this and find out why it's wrong, and then if they want to try it on, they can try it on. But like, no, this shit should be kept at. It's like, well, what is it? Teaching the controversy. That's garbage. Sorry, but it's garbage. Let the kids figure it out on their own.
You have to teach them the facts and no ideology.
Yeah, like a lot of this stuff is still it's snake oil. It's posing as facts. Am I wrong on that?
I honestly haven't done enough research into the science of, or what they claim is science of, what the
flat Earth.
Post.
Flat Earth, man. Yeah, it's snake oil.
Maybe. Who knows?
All right, another question.
What about their claim that ethnic homogeneity leads to happier societies?
Yeah, well, that's bullshit, because in all honesty, a happy society is a society that keeps going. That's why, once again, USSR and fucking Russia, or excuse me, USSR and the United States whooped the ass of two fucking ethno states. 70 years ago,
But
but
the
still.
USSR wasn't very happy.
It's never happy. It's Russia. Have you seen the fucking YouTubers there? Yeah, they're not happy. It's Russia.
Well, exactly. That's kind of, I don't know, probably not relevant, but it doesn't really work for your point.
My point is that they are not ethnically homogenous, and we defeated two ethno-states during that time. Literally, what you're trying to argue is garbage at some point. Like, most of the empires throughout history have not been ethno-states. Sorry. That's the reality of the situation.
All of that is just sort of conjecture and could be correlation.
You could keep saying that, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but we need to find the causal link. Otherwise, these arguments are not going to work against the alt-right, are they?
Right, but I'm saying that ultimately these... Look, if all of these, including Rome, fuck, Egypt. Egypt at its height was not. Even within, if you want to go tribalism, what is it? I want to say, it was right before the rise of Alexander the Great. It was Athens and their little Athenian, I want to say, alliance. You know, they weren't an ethno-state either if you're going tribalism. Like, ethno-states do not succeed long run. And if you're talking about happiness, you know, being alive makes me happy.
I think that might, again, be a matter of correlation, because an ethno-state would probably have to be authoritarian, at least to start with.
No,
But
it doesn't have to be authoritarian. Like, even within the...
well, in order to maintain the homogeneity.
Well, that's the problem. Like...
But my point is that an authoritarian society is pretty likely to fail.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's too far in one direction. But
oh, God, yeah.
An ethno-state wouldn't necessarily have to remain authoritarian.
Well, I mean, if we're looking at the actual... Well, I mean, if we're looking at the marketplace of things, like, if you really have to start looking into what the middle, quote-unquote, middle class is. The only reason why we even have the concept of democracy, at least within the realm that we know it as, from Athens, is because they forgave everyone's debts. That's how the middle class was built. People had time to actually learn, yada, yada, yada. Like, so an authoritarian state always wants to keep people pretty much in their place so that they can't rise above. That's another reason why I'm thoroughly against the ethno-state and really against the whole fucking white nationalism, is because ultimately it needs an enemy to survive. There's no problem.
That is definitely true. An authoritarian society is just like any tribe. In order to survive, it needs an opponent. Yeah, I'm definitely agreeing with you on that.
So then you would agree.
But no, that is an authoritarian society, and
fair enough. Fair enough.
The society in general, you know, not all parts of it would be hateful, but yeah, there's certainly correlations.
Chat, is his mic doing it again? Chat, can you hear me? Is his mic doing it again?
Chat can hear you, but it'll take them about 20 seconds to respond.
Okay.
I think we're pretty good to end it, especially if we're having mic issues. I'm really hoping it's not that bad, but at least now I can listen back to the stream and maybe analyze what's happened to it.
Do you mind if I download this?
So apologies to... Of course, it's public. Apologies to chat if my mic is having issues. It looks like it has been, according to what they're saying. I'm going to have to find a solution to that. But yes, thanks for coming, ChamberDeacon. Thanks everyone else in the chat for coming. This is a good chat. Let's continue in future.
Hey, agreed. Take it easy, Chief.